Ahoy, shipmates! Welcome back to the podcast, and happy Memorial Day for those of you in the USA. I am recording this from my dad's house, the house I grew up in, actually in the basement, in the bedroom I grew up in. Pretty surreal to be here. This house is 41 years old. It was built the year that I was born, and my dad still lives here. I'm back from Tahiti. I left the boat, Falcon, 2 days ago. 8-hour flight to LA, 5-hour flight to Philly. It's crazy that it took me 2 months to get across the Pacific and 13 hours to get back. It's like surreal. I've said this many times before, but if you don't believe in time travel, just get on an international airplane and you've done it. When you compare like what it's like to travel on a human scale. So it's always surreal, these transitions where you go from, one life to the other. I mean, there's no other way about it. We live two lives. And I'm actually kind of in limbo right now because I'm at my dad's house. My sister's here. Mia and Axel are still back in Sweden. So I am sort of in this like transitional purgatory on my way back to Sweden where my sort of family life is, and then on the boat where my boat life is. And we're having a party today for my dad's retirement. They sold Shells, the business that's been around for 75 years, and are officially retired. So we're doing that this afternoon with all my old friends and family and stuff from growing up. So it's a bit surreal to be back here now and on my way to Sweden. So, I'm in a weird state of mind. Very good mood. I'm very happy, very excited for all these things. I guess I should be talking about what's going on at 59 North. As I speak, Falcon's on the way to Bora Bora. I handed the keys over to Emily, who's the skipper, and Mary, who's first mate, as well as Laura, our admin in San Francisco, is on this trip as well. They're going to be in Bora Bora for a couple days and then back to Tahiti. So the boat continues without me. What's going on at 59 North? We've got some bunks left for 2025, though I'm not sure what. I'm actually very much out of the loop. So if you just go to the website, 59-north.com/bunks, you can see what's available. And man, if you can get on a boat this year, that would be awesome. Or next year. And we've released 2027 back to the Atlantic. Although, man, that feels like a long way away. But back to our home waters in the Atlantic Ocean in 2027. I haven't talked about Boat Show in a while. We're doing a lot of fun stuff at Boat Show this year. So go to 59-north.com/boat show. You can sign up for all that stuff. And I will leave you this week. I'm not sure who is the host. It might be Jesse. It is Jesse, and this is a really cool episode. Women and the Wind, Women on the Wind, Women and the Wind. Documentary that came out recently to kind of big fanfare. Jesse interviewed them. I'm very excited. Again, it's so cool to have co-hosts on the show now because I get to listen to them as a fan. So I'm very excited to hear Jesse's interview with Women and the Wind. Until next week, hold fast.
This season of On the Wind is sponsored by Weather Routing Inc., aka WRI, 59 North's longtime weather routing and forecasting friends. You guys, this is an excellent service to take something off your plate and give you a little bit more capacity to focus on all the pre-passage prep. Those final days before an ocean crossing or before any big offshore passage are really busy. So this is an opportunity to leave your forecasting up to the professionals and trust that they have the knowledge, experience, and science behind the forecast that you have coming ahead. They tailor their forecasting and their passage planning to your boat, to your sailing style. Their service is excellent to help you find that perfect departure window and to give you a really accurate forecast of what's going to come in those next few days and weeks that you are offshore. To learn more and to sign up, go to WRIWX.com and of course tell them that 59 North sent you. That's WRIWX.com. On the Wind is also sponsored by Boat How To. Take an online course with the one and only Nigel Calder, your boat tech guru. The Boat How To team teaches us how to be self-reliant at sea and also save big money by fixing things ourselves. In my experience, those two things are our dream, to be able to become completely self-reliant at sea and fix things without paying somebody else. Boat How To currently offers in-depth courses on marine electrical systems as well as marine diesel engines, two incredibly important subjects that we need to have all the information we can about before we head out to sea. Approximately 3,000 students in 85 different countries have now taken the boat how-to courses, and boat building schools have even started to integrate these courses into their curriculum. There's no better way to master your boat's systems. So go ahead and learn as much as you can with boathowto.com. Good day, everyone. You are listening to On the Wind, the sailing podcast, and I'm your host today, Jessie Zebelkink. Today, you get to listen in on a conversation that I got to have with women and the wind, 3 exceptional and multifaceted women who embody courage, creativity, and pose a rare example of primal femininity at sea. Kiana, Laerke, and Alize, they crossed the Atlantic using all traditional sailing methods aboard the Noka, a 50-year-old plywood catamaran with nylon sheathing and tar coating. The girls grinded away for over a year doing a refit in Florida before heading out for their mission to follow, document, and raise awareness to plastic in our oceans. This trio is a powerful force. Using Alize's creative background in filmmaking and photography, you're going to be blown away at the images and the footage that come out of this journey. We can't wait to see their documentary and gain some more perspective on how little one actually needs in today's day and age to take to sea.
Yeah, me too.
Good morning.
Want me to re-record?
And the wind. Good morning. Good afternoon from all over the world. How's everyone?
Good. Yeah, thank you for having us.
It's always somebody brings us together because we're so busy that we don't see each other much.
Here we are on the interweb. We got Kiana, Laerke, and Alize. Can each of you tell me your name, your age, your country of origin, and maybe where you are now?
Yeah, I'm Kiana. I am about to be 29 years old, and I'm currently in Florida at my grandmother's house. Big change from the boat, and just left the boat. And this is actually the first time I'm going to be away from the boat for 3 whole months since I've been living on the boat. So
that's a long time.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you finding your balance on land okay?
Getting there.
Okay, wait, country of origin?
Oh, I was born in the U.S., but I grew up in Brazil.
Aha, where in the U.S.?
Born in Florida.
Oh, you were? Okay, yeah. So you're kind of home.
Yeah.
Confirm everybody pressed record on their voice memo?
Yes. We did it.
Great. Yep. Okay, Laerke?
My name is Laerke, and I'm 39 years old, and I'm originally from Denmark, but I've lived in the Canary Islands, Spain, for the past 8 years.
Wow, and you are in Canaries now?
Yes, I'm still in my house, getting ready to leave very soon for our exciting adventure.
Oh, we have so much to talk about. Amazing. Okay, Alize?
My name is Alize, and I was born in the Dominican Republic. I'm 25 years old. And at 12, I moved to the Midwest. So I'm in Illinois right now. And that's been my home base for the last 13 years.
13 years in Illinois?
In Illinois, baby. I mean, lots of traveling in between.
Yes.
Well, my parents are originally from the outskirts of Chicago. But they lived 25 years outside of the country, in Des Plaines.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was going to say you sound Midwest, even though you're clearly a very worldly traveler.
I'm totally a Midwest. That's yes. I love the contrast of the two places that raised me.
Okay, so Alize, you're the boat baby. Laerke, you're the boat mommy.
I guess.
Kiana, you're the middle kid.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to, I guess, ask each of you a few questions individually. Starting with Kiana, we're just going to kind of go down the line. And Kiana, before I ask you some specific questions about you, could you just give me a briefing about what the heck girls have been up to for the last few years and kind of your mission on Noka?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's the whole origin story of Women in the Wind, which began when I was in the Canary Islands, and I met Laerke. And from there, I sailed back to the Caribbean and then to the United States and began a major refit on the boat for over a year. And in that time, Laerke and I were, planning a trip, which then became a project. And the concept of Women in the Wind was born, which would then lead into a North Atlantic crossing after the refit, where we'd film a documentary about how plastic travels across and just the journey that it takes through the currents. And so 2021, I was at the boatyard, and it was, May, I think, April. Laerke and I are talking. I'm like, yeah, no, for sure. We have to leave by the end of June. Like, that's our weather window. The boat's going to be ready. You need to be here beginning of June so we can get our food ready and we can leave. And so she does that, which is an incredible story. I'm going to let her kind of cover her experience leaving the Canaries to come to Florida. But spoiler alert, it took another year. And she was there with me through that.
This is in Florida, sorry? The boat's in Florida, that Noka's in Florida. Okay.
Yeah.
But you convinced her to come from the Canary Islands to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it was easy when I said
crossing.
We're leaving in 2 weeks. She's like, cool, no problem.
Sold. And then
I feel like I need to interrupt. I feel like I convinced Kiana.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Really... I mean, yeah.
I love that. Okay, say more.
Well, Laerke, why don't you follow up on that little bit of part of the story?
Yeah, it's hard to do a quick sum up of what happened in the past 4 years. Yeah. We're already so how did it all start? But me and Kiana had a long time kind of building these ideas, and we wanted to sail together, but there were so many things against us, like COVID, that we were in 2 different parts of the world. And I don't know, I just kept insisting. And every time something would be like, no, it's not possible, I'm like, yeah, but maybe if it's just me, or maybe if I just do it, or so I just,
it's true.
It was really me kind of convincing Kiana. And I think she was always like, yeah, I mean, if you really want to come, just come.
This was something, Kiana, that you were already pretty dedicated to?
Well, I was dedicated to, my life at sea and the boat, and that wasn't going to change. But it was Laerke's convincing me that, she wanted to go sailing, and we were going to, I don't know, because, it's common that people are like, oh, take me sailing, haha. And I'm like, yeah, sure, haha. And it's
Laerke, what drew you to Kiana?
We connected really quickly when we met, and we just, I don't know, we found a lot of similarities. I used to live in Brazil, and we both could speak Portuguese. We went to the same kind of schooling, Waldorf school. And I think initially it was just these common things that we found, but we had very little time to get to know each other in person, because it was a lockdown happened briefly after we met. And
until you were locked down together.
We were locked down separately. Kiana was on her boat, and I was in my house.
Okay.
And I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I just wanted to go on this adventure, and I thought Kiana was super cool. This woman she'd already crossed the Atlantic by herself when I met her. Whew. I just thought it was such a cool thing, and I wanted to. It kind of took different shapes as we kept talking, but all I wanted was just to go on an adventure with her.
And before you kind of describe Noka to us, Kiana, I got a kick when I kind of dug through your website, that you started out basically as a kid, a teenager, in real estate. And I'm just like
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine 18-year-old Kiana like selling properties in Miami and then asking what the F am I doing, and taking off on a, vacation that turned into a really intentional lifestyle. So how long did it take you to decide that you needed to step away from real estate and go see more of the world?
I mean, I didn't really enjoy I'm not good at selling things, and I realized that really quick when I got there. And I walked through an apartment with someone, and they're like, "Oh, but the color's not right," or whatever. I'm like, "Yeah, cool. Like, I wouldn't get it
You're too
either." But I did get like an administrative job and office manager and property manager and that kind of thing, and I kind of enjoyed it. But what I realized was if I keep working, I'm going to have more and bigger bills, and they're going to be harder to run away from. So I'm young. So I was there for almost 2 years, but I made this decision 6 months before I left. So yeah, a year and a half, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to go backpack for a year just so I have the experience of doing that, and then I'll come back and I'll work, and then eventually I'll retire and I'll have an idea of how I want to spend my free time, because my goal was always I want to be able to do nothing. I want to live a life where I can lay in bed all day if that's what I want to do.
Turns out that's not what you're doing.
Oh my God. Well, the intention was there, and then leaving the first night I spent at a hostel, I said, oh shit, that's not what I want. I love having a home, and having my space, and sleeping in the same bed every day, and I don't want to travel in hostels and stuff. So I started looking for volunteer jobs. And then I was introduced to boats, and one thing led to another, and I realized, okay, I can have my home, and it can be something that I can travel with, and the wind doesn't cost anything, etc. And
and at some point that turned into back. You being an au pair on a catamaran.
Right. So when I realized this, not wanting to hop from bed to bed and stuff, and wanting to be in one place, I started looking into volunteer opportunities through a website called Workaway, which is so cool. And through that, I found this opportunity volunteering on a catamaran as an English teacher for a French family and their children. And I was on the boat for a couple of months.
How old were the kids?
But they, at the time, they were it's so crazy because now they're adults. It's so weird. But they were 10 and 12 or something.
And did they take to you well?
Yeah, it was super cool. And then eventually I had another au pair aboard too, who was actually a teacher. So she taught all the other subjects, and I just spoke English with them. It was cool. And I liked the concept. I never knew before that people lived on boats, and that there was that possibility. But it was so far out of my reach. I was still okay, yeah, cool experience. I'm going to have to go back to Miami and go to work and make all the money to be able to buy one of these things. And then from there, I met a man that became my mentor, and he lived aboard a 74-foot Polynesian voyaging canoe made out of planks of mahogany, and just this incredible piece of art that there's nothing like it. It's so cool. And so then I realized that you could also live this sort of lifestyle with knowledge instead of money. You can pay for it in a different way, and that's just by experience and knowledge. So I learned as much as I could with him, and I have this thing where I wanted that boat. I still want that boat. I love that boat. And so my criteria for a boat that I would want for myself was a black catamaran with shallow draft that was totally modifiable. I have that written in journals before I even saw Noka, which is crazy. And then we sail into a bay, and there it is. a black catamaran with low draft that's totally modifiable with a for sale sign on it. And then, yeah, the rest is history.
I realize, like, in retrospect, the meeting of Hans is like the transformative moment of like how you ended up doing everything in the years following. Did you have that
Absolutely.
feeling when you met this man and saw this boat, like that kind of gut feeling right then that like this was a thing that was going to change the course of your life, or did that not become clear until retrospect?
No, it was really clear,
Yeah,
I think.
cool.
Yeah, like the vision of what it would become, obviously not, but just a feeling of like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Or yeah, it was very clear.
And how old were you then?
There was nothing else. I was 20.
Wow, 20. Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so 9 years ago, you met the person, changed the course.
That's so crazy.
And then everything from there is these little intentional and strategic decisions to make that life possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And I think the clear vision, just a few steps ahead of what I want helps the universe give it to me. Like if you kind of have it a little bit more detailed.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to like trust that. So, and Laerke and Alize both have these experiences as well, where you just like, I don't know, you imagine something and you just believe in it, and then eventually it's happening and you don't even know what happened, but it happened.
Yeah, except you were the one that made it all happen. Even when it doesn't feel like you are the one making it all happen, you are. And I feel like that sometimes takes some reflection to realize like, I made all those little decisions to get me to where I am.
Absolutely. And there are big decisions and there are hard decisions, and
yes,
there are many forks in the path, and you decide along the way.
Before I ask the next question, I'm going to ask everybody who's listening to go to these girls' website like right now. If you're driving, pull over. Go to their website. You need a visual to understand who these women are and this adventure that they've been on. And I feel like having the website in front of you while hearing the voices and listening to the questions is really powerful, because it's the visual and the aesthetics behind the whole story that is incredibly compelling. So womenandthewind.com, womenandthewind.com. Go there now, or log on to their Instagram, which is also Women and the Wind, and have a little scroll through so you can see what we're talking about as we're talking about it. Now, please describe the vessel for us, Kiana, because it is not the typical vessel that we all know to be sailing across oceans today. This boat has a lot of history, and I think I imagine at first sight for most people would feel fear.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you know this because I'm sure you felt this from everyone around you before you took off. But can you just describe to us a little bit more about Mara Noka and why you trust her? Oh, also, I refer, of course, to the boat as her, but I heard you refer to Mara Noka as him. I would also love to hear your take on that.
Yeah. So the boat is a James Warren design, and it's basically the same design, very similar design to the first catamaran that ended up crossing the North Atlantic from west to east, and this is in the 50s by James Warren and two other women. And so it's a very classic design. They are fantastic sailers, very, very, very safe. But the difference with modern day boats is that they're not very comfortable. They're not really built for you to be like, living in an apartment, sailing across the ocean. But so safe, so nice. And it's a 41 feet. It has a planked deck, so a lot of space to walk around on. This is a style that comes from Ontong Java, Hans's boat. And his boat is so large that you could like ride it bicycle around on the deck. And so there's no like cabin top dog house over the center of the boat as most catamarans have. It's totally open and exposed. When you're sailing, you don't have a sunshade except for the sail, unless there's no wind and you put something up. But it's very exposed. There's nothing to cover from the rain. And then you have 2 hulls and 4 bunks. When I moved aboard, there were 4 mattresses. I got rid of 2. I'm never going to have guests. If I do, no more than 2.
That's fair.
We're the lucky ones.
Yeah, it's the lucky ones. And it's and the inside is very narrow. It's small, but it has massive headroom compared to other boats I go into. It's got like over 2 meters of headroom, standing room. So cool. And yeah, it's I don't know, I'm very biased, but it's the safest boat there is, I think. Not mine particularly anymore, but the
How wide is it? You said 44 long?
41
41.
long.
41
and
long.
I
How wide?
guess
You mean?
20 wide.
Funny.
Yeah.
And what's the depth? What's the depth?
Like maybe almost 3 feet, 2.5 feet.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty shallow. Shallow.
Mhm. Yeah.
Can you tell us about the boom? Because if for anyone who
of
has
course.
now gone to the website, you can understand what we're discussing here. If you are not looking at photos, the vessel is straight out of Swiss Family Robinson. I mean, it is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And the boom looks as if someone just chopped down a tree and lashed it to the mast. So I'm curious, was that an already existing boom on the vessel, or did you
No,
custom made? Tell me about that.
we chopped down the tree and lashed it onto the mast.
You did exactly like.
Yes.
Yep.
So when I bought the boat, it had its original mast, which was a triangular galvanized steel kind of like radio tower thing. And it had a normal Bermuda rig, but then I lost that mast. And when I got to the Azores, I got a new one, which is now a telephone pole. And I started using a gunter rig, which requires a gaff and then a large boom. And so I've gone through a couple of booms. I had gone through a couple of booms before the tree. But when we were leaving, the boat's refit, it's done. The mast is up. The boom is rotten. Like, we need a new boom. I looked for a couple different options. I was going to use the mast of a very tiny sailboat. Like, there's different things you could do. But I have a friend in St. Augustine that lived on a plot of land. They had all these thin swamp maple trees, and so we just went to the swamp and chopped down a tree, and when we left there were still like little branches and leaves on it, which was super cool.
I'm just remembering now that we talk about this, that I actually broke the other boom. And
I don't remember that.
So
I broke it. I broke it before.
Very
sorry.
casually mentioned that she lost a mast without like a follow-up story. So can we backtrack to just like casually losing a mast or losing a boom a few times, did you say?
Yeah, the mast was an accident sailing in tandem with Untong Java. Yeah. So then I learned to never sail in tandem again, and like,
Because you were pushing it too hard?
yeah, like I was going too slow compared to his boat. So he sailed over, and we had done this maneuver where he would sail up next to me and toss me food and books and things. And we'd done it many, many times, dozens of times. And then this time he came to toss me a larger sail so I could put on more sail area and go faster. And yeah, his boom is like our boom. Once we arrived in the Azores after the crossing, I gave that boom that we used to him to use for his boom, and it became 1/3 of his boom. and it's like longer than my boat. It was less than a half of. Oh my God, it was crazy to see it like that. So anyways, his boom's very long. It got caught on my shrouds, pulled the mast down.
Wow.
Very intense experience. Also very grateful that most of these things that have happened, especially something as big as losing a mast, have happened in a pretty like relaxed scenario. Like I had him there, so I had guidance of what to do,
with company.
and I learned what to do. So now if it happens again, I know what to do. It's fine.
Yeah. No, that's a really good way to describe it. If anything's going to happen like that, you want it to happen in some kind of conditions that are manageable and in experienced company.
Yeah.
Laerke,
and you can only learn. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can only really understand how you're going to react to a situation, how you should react if you go through it. Like you can read about dismasting and have your plan, but you're not going to know what you're going to do until it happens. So having it happen once like makes me a lot more comfortable if it were to happen again.
So you were fully prepared for the next round if it ever occurred.
Yeah.
Laerke, you were gonna comment on the boom previously, or I feel like you had something to chime in there.
It just came to me now. We're talking about this whole story with the boom, and I remember actually it was at the end of the refit. I actually prepared the other boom that we had. I sanded it fully down and varnished it, and then I left it, and the wind pushed it down, and it just got completely cracked like very easily. I just wish it would have happened before sanding and varnishing.
Broken heart.
Yeah.
That is discouraging.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for describing the boat. I think it's a fascinating vessel that, many of us don't know much about or might not be drawn to for the same reasons that you were. Clearly, it proved its point, and you proved its point for. Oh, wait, you did not chime in on how you refer to him as he. The boat as a he. I love this. This is not common.
So it's just a feeling, I talk to the boat. We've had many, many deep conversations, and yeah, it's just the energy. To me, he is this like old, classy gay man that is an art collector. I don't know why, but that's just how he's an art collector, and he's a lot of fun, and he loves to make cocktails, and he loves to have fun, and then he has to deal with me, who is just not that. And we have an interesting.
I don't know, the old woman. Pretty compatible.
Yeah, no, we are.
I love that you've given your vessel an entire personality with characteristics and traits, and I totally understand that feeling, and it makes me wish I could have rethought the way that I've spoken to my boats and felt about my boats. I think we learn, or we're conditioned to believe that like boats are female, boats are feminine, boats are she's. And I feel like this is the first time I've heard that, and I love it. I might just use that moving forward, whatever my next is.
Yeah, I think it might be because boat is masculine in Brazil, in Portuguese. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm going to jump over to you, Laerke. Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood in Denmark and your exposure to sailing?
Yes. So I grew up in Denmark. Both my parents already sailed when I was born. So actually, at 3 months old, they took me aboard our wooden boat Olga that my dad and his brothers had rebuilt, and they were at this moment had sailed down to the Mediterranean and to the Canary Islands, and then my parents joined in the Canaries and sailed up to the Azores when I was 3 months. So I kind of got 3 months old. And I think they told me they had pretty bad weather, and it was like a long sail. I mean, I don't remember anything, but I think it made like a foundation that I've just always felt very comfortable on boats. And then I'm
really happy to hear that. Happy to hear that.
We've sailed during my whole childhood. We always would sail in the summer months, but only like around small islands in Denmark. And even if I felt very comfortable on boats and very familiar with boats, I never really showed much interest in learning the craft of sailing. So prior to sailing with Kiana, and maybe I would even say still, I don't really know how to sail. I just know how
Me
to
neither.
hang out on boats.
You're comfortable there. You're comfortable
Yeah.
at sea. I had a
Yes.
very, very similar experience growing up with sailing parents as a boat kid, very comfortable on the boat, but no real interest in the actual sailing of the boat, and did not express interest until my early 20s. But I, like you, believe that the exposure to the boat and exposure to the Great Lakes and exposure to ocean made me comfortable on it as an adult. And then with my own son, I took him sailing his first really year of life before he started walking. And he will never remember it. And, you know, I instantly just want to say hats off to your parents, because it is tough to do with a little aboard, and it changes the way that you experience sailing. But you're the perfect example of why it's worth it as a parent, and to be able to have your kid grow up and just feel that comfortable and confident at sea, even without maybe all the, you know, the sailing skill set to take off and do it. So that's so cool. I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for having had that upbringing. And even I remember when I first came to Noka, even though the boat wasn't in the water and it was on land, just going into the galley, just the smell of the wooden boat like brought back all these memories. And I already felt kind of at home at Noka just because of that space and those smells.
Oh, that's wonderful. I also know the feeling, just right at home. Tell me a little bit about the work you're doing in Canary Islands with the Clean Ocean Project.
So I work for an organization here it's based in the Canaries, and we've existed for about 24 years now. I forget the time passes when I have to say how many years. It started out mainly as a beach cleanup initiative, but seeing kind of the development of how plastic is polluting the oceans and that cleaning isn't really enough, it has kind of expanded to also more initiatives that try to prevent plastic from polluting the environment in the first place, and just raising awareness and general like campaigns against coastal development as well.
Was there a moment in history where you felt overwhelmed by plastic or felt compelled to do something about it, or was it an accumulation of little moments?
I think it's always kind of been in my interest and even upbringing, like an awareness towards the environment and towards these issues. But definitely coming to an island, when I moved to the Canaries 8 years ago, I think just that whole concept of, okay, I'm trapped on this little island in the middle of the ocean, like everything I consume, everything that I get rid of, where does it go? And just kind of as if I was on a boat, basically. I think that definitely started to make me more curious to this whole thing.
And when you invited yourself aboard to join the journey, were you as much on a mission to kind of track plastic and understand the way it moves and how much of it there is in the ocean as you were drawn to the adventure? Like, what was your big motive?
I can't respond to this without going even further backtracking in this, because actually, when I met Kiana the first time, I had just returned from the Cape Verde Islands where I was surfing, and I saw a lot of kids surfing without a lot of materials. And I came back to the Canaries. I went to this trash place and I found a lot of surfboards. And I just started with this idea, okay, I want to bring these used surfboards to the Cape Verde Islands. And that was actually what I wanted to do. And then because of the pandemic, because of all the time, we kind of started just developing this project. And we had more women involved that were also somewhere in Brazil. At this time, Kiana were in the States and I was in the Canaries. And I think we were just interested in this common thing that was the currents that the boats also travel with, but also the plastic, and all of us kind of being connected by the Atlantic Ocean. So I think that's kind of how the plastic came in. It was a topic that we all were really interested in. And then it just seemed like a very natural thing to kind of follow the journey of the trash.
Since you already started this trip like very plastic aware and aware of waste, what did you find most challenging when you were living aboard? Like what kind of waste was the most difficult to keep up under control, whether it was plastic? Like I found on Boat Life, for example, like you couldn't, it's impossible to not buy products, for example, a bottle of bleach, any cleaning supplies that you need from West Marine or whatnot. Like there's so much stuff that only comes in plastic jugs, for example. So that was kind of an area where I was like, it can't fully be eliminated from our lives yet. We can get closer and we can do better. But did you find living aboard one thing particularly more challenging than another versus land?
Not that I really remember, because it had been a mission of Kiana and I had a long time to build the idea of the journey as well. So it was always very incorporated, this thing of trying to do like a zero waste lifestyle, more or less. So we had been researching so many different products. So all of our shampoo were in shampoo bars, and we went to get a lot of stuff in bulk. And of course we did have things in plastic as well, but it was minimal. And then, I don't remember like any particular thing that but of course, when you keep all your waste, you start to see it. And Kiana was making these eco bricks. So we would cut everything into a Gatorade bottle. And then you really start to see how much it is. I don't remember how many she made in the end.
So explain that a little bit more. Eco bricks out of Gatorade bottles. Can you describe that?
I think Kiana needs to describe that.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying a different method. The eco bricks, you can like stuff your plastic wrappers, food wrappers, anything that's clean, really. Otherwise, it's going to stink. But into these bottles, whatever kind, and I still do this today. I stopped cutting it up. And you stuff it in. You can fit like probably a trash bag this big of trash plastic into these bottles and stuff them down, and they turn brick hard, and it's just one bottle. So at the end of our trip, I think we had 6 Gatorade bottles.
That's not so much.
Wow. Okay. So
it's not much, but it's a lot of trash if you're going to throw it away individually.
You're taking every piece of plastic used though, and you're basically compressing it. You make your own trash compactor within a Gatorade bottle, making it as small as possible.
And then if you wanted to, you could use those to build something. They make like some kind of what's it called? It's not cement, but it would be something that you can adhere these different bricks to and build a structure with. It's really cool.
Maybe your next project could be making a house out of these.
I've thought of like doing a project with schools where the kids can bring trash or just separate the trash at the school, and you can separate them in different colors into different bottles and then build like a little tool shed or something out of it.
Yeah. That's cool. I guess I have not heard that method described as like a thing that you can do at sea. And it almost seems obvious when you describe it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't sit there and think like, oh, I'm going to crush all of my plastic as small as I can and stuff it into a Gatorade bottle. And, I think you can see it as a game and as a challenge that way, as a little bit more of a fun way of figuring out how to manage your own waste and how to keep it as light as possible. I think that's kind of a fun way to look at it.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, if you're showing up to an island in the Caribbean with no recycling system, if you're throwing away one bad bottle that's compressed 3 trash bags worth of trash, it's better than those 3 trash bags.
Yeah, that's really good. So Laerke, you kind of already previously described your like gut instinct about Kiana and the boat and kind of your trust in her. How long did you end up staying aboard with Kiana?
Like aboard means sailing or the whole thing?
No, like the whole thing. Yeah. How long were you together, physically together on this mission, land or sea?
I left my home in the Canaries on the 15th of May in 2021. And I returned, when did I return? In August 2022, I guess.
Okay, so year and a half?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
I thought it would
And
be 3 months when I left. That was what I told everyone.
Did your trust in her, was that proven accurate over your time together?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't really have any fear in the sailing prior, maybe a little bit when we started sailing, but I always, even when I saw the boat, somebody actually asked me this recently, like when I saw the boat in the boatyard, if I was scared, and I'm like, I don't recall at all feeling scared, even though when I saw it, it was not like Kiana just described it. It was 2 canoes disattached from each other and just like a bunch of piles of things that I didn't really understand where they were.
Project.
And that's basically how it looked, for a very long time. And also the hulls were half peeled. There was tar, there was fiberglass. Like it was kind of like a puzzle to even understand how this was a boat. But I didn't feel any fear because I knew that Kiana had already crossed the Atlantic twice on that boat. So I thought, what could, now we're going to make it even better. So what's the worst thing going to happen?
Did having people aboard, Kiana, like heighten your feeling of responsibility? That that feeling of the lives are in my hands now and under my decision making, or did it feel a little bit more collaborative than that? If you know what I'm saying.
I mean, it was definitely collaborative, but once we were out at sea, I was.
You felt that pressure.
I felt it heavy.
Yeah, because then Alize comes aboard. and in Florida, right? Did you join in Florida, Alize?
I met Kiana at the boatyard 6 months before she asked me to go on the voyage. Also, 2 canoes, no deck yet.
Why were you in the boatyard?
I was working in Jacksonville, Florida, and we had been following each other on Instagram for a while, and I remember that she had sent me some message saying, "I'm in a boatyard. If you ever want to come and help, rebuild this boat."
And okay.
And I'm like, well, no. I'm like, I don't have the time for that. Sorry, but I'm in the area now. So if you want to meet with each other, that would be great. I would love to. I thought it was really cool when she first popped up on my feed. Just like, whoa. Female sailor.
Yeah.
She's living the dream, and like utmost respect. And so it was an exciting venture to go down to St. Augustine and see the boat. And I just remember being in awe of this simplistic lifestyle, which is something that I had admired for a really long time in my life. People that can live with very little and the freedom that allows in someone's life to be able to explore and travel and get stuck for a year and a half to try to rebuild it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you saw like the actual grind and like back-breaking dirty work that goes on behind the scenes before you take off sailing, did that change your perception of quote unquote living the dream?
No, I didn't. So when I met Kiana on the boat, we just chilled the whole time. I didn't see them working. Laerke was off surfing, and I didn't meet Laerke at that point. But it just felt like one of those other things where it was, it just seemed like this person was doing the work that they needed to do to be able to go on to the next thing. Okay. So it didn't feel like,
you saw as much as pragmatic. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like I'm doing this, and they're in it. And I found it to be really inspiring, and like it's nice thinking about, it's nice to be stuck in this place and just doing what you can with the time that you got, and weather allowing, moving forward and doing things that you don't know how to do, which is what these 2 women were doing. So it was inspiring more than anything.
It's so inspiring, and it feels like that feeling when you watch a documentary and after it's done, you can't stop thinking about it and it just sits with you. I imagine in your creative brain, like you met these women, you saw this boat, you witnessed this life, and you probably walked away. Did you go back to the Midwest eventually, or were you you were living in Florida?
Yeah, no, it was just a job that I had in Florida doing some filmmaking and photography work there. And I think after that I did a little bit of traveling. I'm kind of nomadic in general, but the Midwest is where I land.
But this vision, this experience with the girls, did that just kind of stick with you and your creative brain? Did your brain instantly turn into like, I want to document this, I want to tell this story? Or not yet?
It was more just like, I want to go sailing. I want to go sailing with this girl.
Right on. Yeah.
And escape this world for a little bit, and experience that. And sailing in general had always been this vision in my head. I remember having dreams when I was younger of being on a deck and being in the middle of the ocean. And I have that very clear and printed from when I was a teenager.
Wow.
But I had looked into some sailing courses in Lake Michigan when I was 17 or something, but I never had the money or the time, never lined up for me to stay 1 month and, ask for or do a course in learning how to sail. So that, it was always in the back of my mind. And then I'm just like, maybe it's just not for me. And then Kiana, meeting her, I left the boatyard saying, damn, if I were to maybe join
girl crush
on any of these trips, major girl crush. And then it happened. And then I forgot about it. It wasn't like I was like every day, Kiana, I want to be on this boat.
Sure.
It was like 6 months. I was like, cool, that was cool. And then 6 months later, she texts me and she's like, yo, so by any chance, would you want to make a documentary about the North Atlantic crossing? And we want to document plastic. And I'm like, heck yeah, all of these things align. I want to go sailing. I'm also interested and have been interested in the whole plastic thing growing up in the Dominican Republic. Also, the whole kind of like Laerke being on an island and realizing this immense.
Where does it all go?
Where does it all go? Yeah. So it just felt in huge alignment from the beginning. And I said, yes. What do I bring?
Yes.
Here, what do I have to bring?
Did it?
Waterproof bags. I feel like that's all we told her. A lot of waterproof bags.
Yeah. Did it make sense at all to kind of combine your talent with a subject that you knew essentially nothing about? Like to say, like, I'm going to document this, but I also have to be able to handle being on this boat in whatever weather we encounter, and with girls I don't know very well. Yeah.
Well, with the aspect of not knowing these girls, from what I had, the one afternoon that I spent with Kiana, I get gut feelings with people. And my gut feeling was I could probably spend a good amount of time with this person and be okay. And then when I met Laerke, which we met each other 2 months before we departed, I had another job in Florida and we met up for one afternoon, went to the beach, and I thought, really good human beings, super down to earth. I could deal with it. With the sailing experience,
I could deal with it. Thanks. Yeah. So nice.
No, not whatever. But because you never know, you could get a first good impression, and then things get rocky for sure. It can get rocky, but I was just trusting in the whole. Like, my initial reaction is, yes, I want to do this. And with the sailing aspect, I was very innocent and naive and just saw it as this next beautiful adventure that is once in a lifetime, and I couldn't pass it up. So it was exciting more than anything. And then I was a little anxious about having the responsibility of filming, and I didn't know how I was going to react to the whole sailing experience, which I then found out that I do get seasick. I always knew that, but I didn't know that I could stay seasick for so long, which for a couple weeks, just dealing with that. But I got used to it, and it was, just trying to maintain the spirit of like, I'm experiencing something very beautiful right now, and I am very lucky to be able to document it and do the thing that I love doing, which is observing and capturing moments and observing people and landscape and surroundings. And so it was always just like, damn, I'm doing this. And then a little nerve-wracking too, because I'm like, what is this story even about, really?
I have
trip.
a few follow-up questions for that, but I am curious, I guess, Kiana, what drew you to Alize and her work? Because I know what draws me to her work. And yet again, listeners, I want you to take open a new tab, go to alizejirah.com. That's ALIZEJIREH.com. Please go have a look at Alize's work throughout this discussion, because it's some of the most stunning photo work I've ever seen. As a portrait photographer myself, I'm very drawn to it. So I'm curious, Kiana, like, is her work something that you followed, and did you just kind of envision, like, if I'm going to have this story documented, this is what I want it to look like? How did that unfold?
I connected with her work during the pandemic, I think that's
around
when
the same time that you met Laerke, right?
Good old pandemic.
Yeah.
You were anchored.
And you had posted these photos from Africa that are just like super stunning with black bean and just, so stunning. And that's what drew me to her work. And then there was something about her person that like was what really, I don't know, attracted me in general. And like, that's why I wanted to hang out, was like, this is a very interesting person. I didn't know her age, and I feel like I didn't know your age for a long time. And then she was like, I'm 21 or whatever. I was like, what?
Well,
I'm forgetting your age.
Your work is very
don't know.
mature, though, Alize, and I think that, and even speaking to you today, I feel that from you as a person as well. But your work, first and foremost, is very mature, and it has this wise depth to it, which is just so fascinating. I hope you are also, on her website by now, scrolling through her work, because another thing that I'm fascinated by about your work is the way that you are able to use nudity, and literally the nudity of the three of you, as the most like primal, natural synergy between human and sea. And that's hard to do. And again, this interest is coming from being a portrait photographer and doing some nude work of my own. And how do you remove sex appeal? How do you take three beautiful women, put them on this badass boat in the middle of the ocean, document them naked half the time, but when you play back, when you look through them, like, it's just like as described before, so Swiss Family Robinson, just nature and raw, and primal is really the perfect word for it. It's just beautiful. And I can tell that your images are coming very much from an observatory standpoint, and from a human who's curious. I can tell that you're sitting back and just paying attention versus setting up and staging. Like, these images are not staged, and I know that. I was not there, but I know that. I can feel that in your work. So can you just talk to us a little bit about how you think when you're documenting and what you're drawn to?
Yeah. With the whole documenting process and taking photographs or filming in general, for me, it's a very, it's a process that helps me be in my own body. And so the observations are informing how I feel. And so you bring up like the whole nudity part, which I work a lot with my photography and I do a lot of self-portraiture. And for me, that practice was to, again, connect with my body, because I am a lot of the times in my head. My body is something I disconnect with a lot. And the practice of taking photos and observing myself and being in the naked form, which to me represents vulnerability and it represents an openness. And it's more than, for us, one, it was just easier because we would be wet all the time with damp clothes if we weren't naked. And it's just natural. And I also find it very beautiful being in this vulnerable state in the ocean, in this giant, immense, kind of terrifying entity that is alive, very much so, just able to switch up on you at any moment. But you're there and vulnerable. And I think that's why the images of the crossing speak to a lot of people, and especially women, because the body in essence is it can be a sexual thing, and that's beautiful too, but in essence it is this primitive just flesh sack that we all carry. And when you're fully exposed, there's nothing hiding you from the elements. There's no barrier. And I think people feel very called to that because it makes them feel like, wow, I can be comfortable in, my flesh and bones and experience the world in this open, uncovered way,
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you've done an immaculate job of documenting that. And that is also how and why I became so drawn to your story, because of how you are sharing it. And I think it particularly pulls women because there are very few places on this planet where we can feel naked and free at the same time. It's very, very rare for a woman to be able to find those two things, to be able to exist at once, naked and free. And
right. And with other women too.
And with other women, exactly. And any sailor listening to this who has been out to sea, guaranteed you've been out there naked, because it's fun, it feels good, and all of us who have been naked at sea just see these images, and it just portrays everything. I want them all on my wall. It speaks so much to me, and it just feels so good to be out there and feel the salt and wind on your skin and whatever the elements are. Yeah, you're in it. And so hats off to you. Really, really beautiful job.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. It also is just there's a survival element to it. I realize you weren't just surviving out there, you were also thriving, but the images portray a bit of survival, just washing yourself in the seawater, cutting up fish, hiding from the rain, finding sun protection, finding wind protection. But also in so many of these kind of survival moments, there's also nudity. And so, you can just feel so much in all of the images. I do want to talk a little bit about the actual leaving for the trip, and maybe those first few days or that first week. Can you just give us, any of you, whoever wants to chime in, can you just give us how many days nonstop were you at sea? And what was your route?
We did 30 days. And we left out of Beaufort, North Carolina, heading for Flores in the Azores.
Okay, that was 30 days, Beaufort, North Carolina to Azores.
Yeah.
How many days were you in Beaufort for that kind of final prep?
We were in Wilmington for the most part, for about a month, waiting for wind. And then we did most of our prep there. We went up to Beaufort. And how long were we there? 2 days, 3 days?
2 days.
5 days, I feel.
Very, okay. Time was already feeling different than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at this point, were you already fully in documentary mode, Alize?
I was filming here and there. Mostly I was trying to familiarize myself with the space, but I did have my camera rolling and anything that I found like, okay, this could be good practice. And we did have some prep stuff, which I found to be would probably be needed for the documentary. So I was rolling, yeah. And then doing a little bit of art here and there, doing some cool drone photos.
And did you, so tell me real quick, what was in your camera bag? What'd you bring?
Great question. Very simple setup. I've always kept my gear because I'm not a gearhead. Most photographers and filmmakers are like, this and this and blah, 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 this brand and this brand. I've kept it very simple. 10 years ago when I started shooting video, I started on a Panasonic GH2 and have just kept with the Panasonic series for video since then. So on the trip, I brought a Panasonic GH5 with my favorite lens in the whole entire world, which is a Voigtlander wide angle lens, 17.5 millimeter with a 0.95 aperture.
Wow.
Really, but so beautiful. You can get up really close to things and it just feels, and very cool lens. And then I also had an onboard mic for sound, which did end up melting after day 26. So that didn't really work. Sound was a bit iffy. And then I had the drone, our beautiful friend, the drone, which I hated.
Does she have a name?
So much anxiety at the time. No, because
no name.
She's just
not worthy of a name.
My enemy. Just kidding.
Understood.
But you know what I mean. It's a loud device.
Yeah. Intrusive.
Scary to handle. Yeah. But Kiana did a really good job. She was the one that would catch the drone. She did a great job doing that.
Forearm.
And I think also, didn't we find out that we had this like sensor turned on, so every time the drone would come close to us, it would go away again? Yes. And Kiana still managed to catch it.
Oh, brother. Yep, that was it. Oh, and then another very important thing was my tripod. Tripod to get shots of all three of us, which also I had to replace. It got really rusty. Not, fell over many times. At the end, I had to replace all of my gear, actually.
Okay.
And then I had an underwater visor. I mean, I had been using that gear for a good amount of time, maybe like 4 years or something. But yeah, it took a beating.
Well, it will be well worth it when we can discuss this documentary when we wrap up today. I want to we're talking about what is now out in the world that I cannot wait to see. What were some of your like fears and anxieties? I'm curious about this for each of you before departure, because I feel like a lot of fears and anxieties are put on us by other people's fears and anxieties, and some of them are our own, and I know what you mean. I mean, I know you know what I mean when I'm describing the difference of like family and friends fears and anxieties for you versus the ones that you actually feel within, and sometimes they're hard to separate. What fears and anxieties did you guys have that were your own, that were not coming from each other or the public?
For me, it was we just did a total refit on the boat. It was completely unlashed in 3 different pieces, and Laerke and I put it back together. So like, is it gonna hold up?
That's a good.
I mean, we did a little
that is real as it
sail between St. Augustine and Wilmington, and then Wilmington and Beaufort, and like I could feel that the boat was super stiff and doing well. So I wasn't too worried, but still, it's like.
But it lives in your mind, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously taking crew for the first time on a gnarly trip, because then it's about to happen. So like before, I'm like, yeah, storms and stuff, that's gonna be cool. Like, and then you're about to leave, and I'm like, okay, storms and stuff. Okay,
Well, it's very natural for women to be looking out for other women too, and for us to be feeling the feelings of each other and being highly empathetic, and that kind of seeps into our own, to our own state of being. So I imagine as the responsibilities as a captain, you're feeling responsible for the well-being of the other women, which is what makes a good captain, but it can also be disruptive to your own well-being if someone's not well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was stressful in a strange way because like I'd never experienced it before, and I think it was also mixed with the fact that now I'm going out to sea with other people for 30 days when my favorite thing is being out there alone. So that adaptation with like I need to keep them safe. I don't think I was the nicest captain, but my priority was like keep them safe, go downstairs.
I mean, that is kind. That is kind. That is keeping your crew safe, even if it didn't come out of your mouth nicely.
Sometimes I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All good.
After apology.
Yes.
I think my biggest fear was probably, I mean, I had definitely also a lot of other people's fear brought on to me, because maybe Kiana was the less receptible to this kind of stuff. So everyone was like telling me on the side, like, you sure you want to do this? This seems crazy.
Crazy. Let me tell the not crazy one.
I had a year of people like almost trying to talk me out of it in a way, because they're like, whatever, Kiana's going to do it, but maybe should you reconsider?
Maybe you shouldn't join. Yeah.
And then a lot of people telling me, you have to tie yourself onto the boat. You have to tie yourself onto the boat. And so I had all of that stuff a little bit with me, but I think my biggest fear was definitely that Kiana would fall overboard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's not an irrational fear though, because at the end of the day, are you capable without her? Are you too capable without her? And I think, more people need to be asking themselves that question when they head out to sea, being the one with lesser experience, because it is a very realistic scenario. And as much as we'd like to think that it's not, it is. And I feel like that's a conversation I've had with a lot of women who are joining their spouses or their partners, and they're all in, their hearts in, they're ready for the adventure, but they might not have the skill set yet to manage the boat if someone is hurt or if someone is overboard. So it is a real anxiety. I mean, yeah, it exists.
Yeah, it was definitely that feeling of thinking about the scenario. She would fall overboard. Maybe we would only discover when it's too late. But even if we would see it happening, I was not very confident that we would be able to rescue her, especially in the weather we had, because there's no engine. And the sail, it's not like this boat, you just like do a little tweaking and then you're there. So there's that whole thought of not being able to rescue her. And then after that, being the one that had to take the responsibility and not knowing anything, that really scared me a lot. But it gradually went away because I felt more familiar with the boat though.
Good. Okay. Well, that's comforting. Were there any moments before you had that confidence that you were like, upset by something Kiana did, or feeling like maybe that wasn't the smartest decision, or she could have fallen over? Were there any moments of friction there?
No, I mean, the way she walks around on the boat and everything might look in the beginning a little bit like, oh, this looks kind of scary, but she's always holding on. She's not like kind of recklessly doing anything. So I think the thing that I would say I definitely was a little bit upset sometimes about was that we never did like a trial man overboard. And I think for me, if I know how to react in a crisis, I don't fear it anymore. But that was kind of what scared me, having all these like scenarios where I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? And then, I mean, slowly I figured it out. When me and Kiana went sailing after the crossing, I felt completely different. Of course, we also didn't have the same weather, but yeah.
Kiana, was there a feeling for you that like, I feel like sometimes when you practice something, or sometimes when you fully prepare for something, it means that something could happen. It means that something could be real. And if you don't allow yourself to even fake make it real, you won't allow it to happen. And there's probably this feeling of I don't want to say that kind of reality on that kind of vessel with no engine and big seas, that the chances of picking someone up if they go overboard are really, really unlikely. Really, really unlikely. And there's just a reality to that. And was there any part of you that just thought, well, there's no point in practicing this because if you go overboard, you're overboard and that's it. So don't fall off the boat. Was there some of that feeling?
I think that's what I said.
That's what she said. Every time I was like, should we maybe? No.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not an option. You allow it not to be an option.
Yeah, that's put it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's too terrifying of a possibility to even practice. You know, I'm sure everybody has a different safety take on that, but I can certainly understand that feeling.
But she did,
Yeah.
like, to her defense, she did explain stuff. It's not, she didn't only say, just don't let it happen. But she did explain. So I eventually was like, okay, I guess I just have to go into the wind. Somebody has to point at that person. And I was looking at my Sailing for Dummies book, but every time it's like, if it blows more than 15 knots, turn around, go home. So it didn't really feel like such a helpful book in our situation.
Nope, not helpful in your context. What about you, Alize? What were your big fears?
I think I was definitely the most naive out of all of us, and in general, I will escape the thought of fear if it comes into my mind. So I'm just like, no, it's all going to be fine. It's going to be fine, and it's going to be fine. You know.
So the naivety did you service.
It did. I think that did give me, and I look at my life now and all the things that I probably wouldn't have been afraid of before because I just didn't think about it. And I don't know. I'm dealing with wanting to be more naive and innocent about everything, but with some kind of wisdom. But I did have a feeling that I was going to die. I was like, I had it in my, I was like, I've never done something like this, so it's very possible that I might die. And so I was just living my life up until then.
Of that feeling.
Yeah, it's like, if I'm going to go like that, I'm going to go like that. And that's going to be a great way to go, you know, doing something unknown. But I had this feeling and I was mentally preparing myself for like, this might be the last time I see my family. So really be present, Alize, be with everyone, be with your friends, enjoy. But that, you know, it was one of those feelings where, you know, you're just kind of preparing yourself for the worst. And in my eyes, that was the worst because I'm like, Kiana knows what she's doing. Laerke seems like she knows what she's doing. So, you know, I'm going to be fine. But there was one moment where I did get really kind of shooken up. And then I quickly laughed it off. And I was outside on the deck and the girls were in the galley. And I was like on one side of the deck, curled up, and the swell was really high, and a wave hit the side of the boat really hard, and I was washed over. It washed over the deck, and I flung from one side to the other and hit the cabin next door. And I was like, oh, if I would have been standing, I would have been overboard. And that was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay real low to the ground.
Yeah.
This whole time. Yeah.
Reality check there.
Yes. But then other than that, it was kind of scary at night when it was really loud and very thin walls on each side of you, and waves are slamming into you, and it's dark and you can't see the ocean and you're just hearing ginormous waves. It's really loud.
That is terrifying.
And that was a little like, oh, okay, I guess I got to get used to this.
Yeah. Moments of tension between all of you or two of you, anything that you feel like, you know, now you can comfortably discuss?
I think like Kiana and I, when we left, I think we both were like, let's just get this over with, whatever. like the whole excitement, like, because I went into it like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm crossing Atlantic. Like I came with that energy that Alize later came with. And then like slowly, yeah, that energy kind of just turned into like, okay, we finally made it. Let's do it. And I was like, let's not even film it. Like it was Kiana who was like, no, we have to do it. So she brought in Alize, and she kind of came with that fresh energy that I think for both of us made it a little bit more exciting. But I think Kiana and I were like this like old couple kind of.
Yeah.
After 1 year in the boatyard and
that you're just kind of lost your zest and are exhausted and want to get it over with. And Alize comes aboard and she's fresh chicken.
But I think as I remember the trip up till day 17, we didn't really hang out much. None of us.
I was curious
because we had a lot of rough weather.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I think when your physical self kind of settles into sea life and your mental self follows, don't know which one comes first. It's usually one before the other. But I feel like there's so much time can pass where no one's speaking. Or, you're only speaking in practical terms, need to change a sail or get some sleep or can I have a coffee or, really, really short and sweet. But did you find yourself with really long periods of time not speaking to each other?
I think those first 17 days for sure. I remember because we were kind of almost. Oh, geez.
We lost our mommy.
Oh, there you're back.
Oh, you're back.
Sorry.
We're still recording. Good. Okay. Carry on.
Yes, we are.
Oh. I just remember day 17 was our halfway party, even though I think we still missed a little bit to be completely halfway. And then we sat together in the galley, and I remember thinking, wow, it's actually very nice to like talk to each other and have a social moment.
But we did food every day together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember us talking throughout, but it was only in those meal times, which were only 15, 20 minutes. And then Laerke and I were sharing the saloon, the one little cabin, and we had a good amount of talking. And
I was hiding in the doghouse.
Kiana was hiding in her anxiety in the doghouse, reading her books and praying that we don't die.
Way to hold down the fort, Kiana. Okay, so 30 days later, you all arrive in the Azores. Was it magical making landfall, or was it disappointing in any way? How was that feeling?
I'll let the girls answer that because it's their first crossing.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely not what I had expected in any way. Like I thought, some moments I was like really looking forward to land, but at this moment when we arrived, I didn't want to go into land at all. It didn't seem like a nice place. I just wanted to continue sailing.
I think it's a more complex experience than one might be able to understand unless they've done it before. There is like an enormous excitement and pride that happens when you see it and when you can smell it. And there's also this weird disappointment. And I don't know if I know how to describe that myself. So I guess I'm curious if you can put words in my mouth for me.
I wasn't ready. My phone started buzzing, and that was the first indication where I was like, oh, my phone has signal now. And messages are coming in, and I was like, I gotta lock this. I gotta throw this in the ocean, or I gotta lock it away. And please, let's not land.
Yeah.
And probably just because you do think about like, oh, what now? This was such a beautiful experience, and a very it became the comfortable space where you're like, wow, I felt relaxed, especially that last week we had really nice weather. I was like, this is
you finally settled in.
Beautiful, totally, yeah.
And then it takes weeks.
Yeah, so it was intimidating, and it was not very exciting, especially thinking of, okay, now you got to enter this more masculine way of thinking, logistical, like we're back now and we got to start working.
Yeah. It's done. The feeling of it's done, and you're desperate for it to be done, and you're also terrified for it to be done. At the same time. Yeah.
And also just having such a big experience, I was already imagining people asking like, how was your trip? And then you're like, it was fine. Or like, what do you say? It felt so weird having to describe that, and just that thing that, when you see the land, you kind of remember everything that land also represents, and all the noise and all the people and everything. It just didn't really seem like anything I wanted to return to, actually.
But the most beautiful part is that the three of you got to do it together. And Kiana, I'm curious if for you, your thoughts on sailing solo versus with friends changed since you now have these lifelong friends that you can share this experience with. Because I feel like when solo sailing, there's a lot of things that you can't connect with people on. You're smiling as if this is a subject, this is a thing.
Yeah, I'm watching them.
We're like, nope. No.
No, it was wonderful, especially mealtime. That's my favorite thing. If I could have that, like if everyone could teleport for mealtime, that'd be great.
Yeah, just that 30 minutes a day of camaraderie, and then back to solo life for you.
No, and I mean, the experience I had was fantastic with the girls. And after that, I went on a 43-day trip to Brazil solo. And that was my first time sailing by myself on the boat after the refit, and like reconnecting with it after 2 years. Yeah. So I just really enjoy it. It's because there's something about being alone out there that's incomparable to any other experience in life, where there's no one around. Yeah. You drop masks and shields you didn't even know you had with yourself when you're by yourself in your room, just because there's more stimulation and like your phone, and maybe your friend will call. I don't know. But when you're out there and there's no one around, there's not going to be anyone around. Oh, it's powerful. It's so cool. I don't know. It's really something I really enjoy.
And how confidence building and self-resilience and self-reliance and self-sufficiency, and the list goes on and on and on, which is so hard for us to gain in our current society.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit about your documentary, and we'll get this wrapped up and get you girls on with your day. But can you each just brag for a second about this beautiful thing you created? Where can we see it? Tell us, how long is it? Give us a little summary of the documentary that is now being released.
Alize, you want to go?
Alize, you're the one that's in it now.
Yeah. So our documentary, which has been another ocean crossing in itself, and I think all of us feel at the end of it, even though we're really excited, we're all feeling like a old tired throuple couple situation where we're just really tired. It's a lot of work to make a film independently, and we've learned a lot. And it's been a beautiful experience and really cool to be able to process the whole journey through the process of making this film and trying to tell the story and weave it all together. But it's 95 minutes long. So an hour.
Ooh, I can
So that's, with a 5-minute credit. So it's really 90 minutes. But
I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah. To brag about it a little bit, I'm not really good at bragging about things, but I will say that I feel very proud. I had a moment in the beginning of the year where I had taken a break from watching the film, like for the millionth time. And I watched it and really tried to separate myself from it as much as possible, because it's one thing telling somebody else's story, but when it's your story, like all of us, I think we had this, it was hard to try to put it into words or try to package it up and think like, wow, yeah, this is great. People are going to be interested in this because it's just what happened. But I watched it the beginning of this year, and I was just feeling good emotionally for the first time also in a while in myself. And I was just like, I'm in a good mood. Let me put this on. And I did. And I was, tearing up and laughing and reliving the moments and feeling this immense gratitude to be transported again onto the boat, because it really feels, it's a film that, and I've heard it from many people that have already watched it, it's intimate and you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And I think as a filmmaker, that is at least the type of films that I would like to continue making, are films that feel intimate and they feel like someone can really immerse themselves into the experience and become an observer of themselves at the same time that they're observing somebody else experiencing something beautiful. And I watched it and I was like, damn, this is actually pretty nice. This is a great film. And
I'll tell you right now, the trailer alone made me cry.
I'm glad to hear it.
So it's going to be very, very well received. It's going to be very well received.
Yes. And I'm also prepared for, the you'll get both. I'm prepared for both sides. Yeah. And that's totally normal. And we didn't make this film for everybody to like it. And I'm trusting in that, the people that are going to connect to it are the ones that are meant to. And in general, I've made it a pact with myself that it's important for me to feel proud of the things that I am part of. And I do feel proud of this. And it's been a long journey. It's been man, it's been I've never worked on something for so fucking long. Pardon my French.
Pay you back. However, it's going to pay you back. It is. I mean, the story is beautiful. You're three smart, intelligent, adventurous, talented, and also beautiful women. I mean, there's nothing not interesting about this story. So I can't wait to see it. Can you tell us best way to find you? I kind of already described in the beginning, best way to find you, and maybe the next few screenings that are coming up or next tickets that are available.
Yeah, Kiana, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So Instagram or the website, both womeninthewind.com. And we've got a whole world tour happening right now where we're starting off in Wilmington, North Carolina. From there, we go to Paris and we finish up in Brazil. But in between, there are a bunch of community screenings happening. Applications are going to stay open. So if anybody wants to host a screening of the film yourself and bring your friends together, your community, it can be at schools, cinemas, shops, your backyard, whatever. On the boats, a lot of people are doing them on boats, which is really cool. And so this is all happening through end of April to May into June of this year. And then after that, we are excited to announce some digital release too, but we're going to save that for a little bit.
Is Annapolis Boat Show on your radar?
Yeah, I need to get on that.
Okay, so we'll do there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll follow up with links and all this info in the show notes as well. Just a huge thank you, girls. Laerke, Alize, Kiana. So happy to talk to you. I could ask questions all day, but we'll go ahead and close here, and I'll let you get on with your day. And just thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and your busy schedules when you're world tour and documentary right now. I'm super, super proud of you, even though I don't know you in person yet.
Thank you, Jessie. That means a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure, and really grateful for you to bring us all together again, because we're so busy all the time to even catch up or see each other's faces.
Yeah.
Well,
It's true.
It's so nice to meet you.
Fantastic day. So nice to meet you too. Thank you for being part of On the Wind. And I'll meet you one day. I feel very confident about that. It's just a matter of when or where.
Thanks so much, Betsy. Have a good one.
You're so welcome. You too. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day.
One more huge thanks to our friends at WRI for sponsoring this season of On the Wind. Go to WRIWX.com to get in touch. We'd like to thank Boat How To one more time for sponsoring On the Wind. These are your boat tech courses from world-class experts. Go check out their site, boathowto.com. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 North and hosted by me, Jessie Zevelkink, and also by Nikki, Andy, Mia, and August. The show is mixed and produced in Frederick, Maryland by Lee Cumberland. Ads are read by us, the hosts, and occasionally by 59 North's bosun, Adam Brown, and podcast producer, Lee Cumberland. Episode artwork and website show notes are done by Laura Parent out in San Francisco. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest and musician Cameron Dayal, while the outro music you're hearing now is of course by our friends Storm Weather Shanty Choir from Bergen, Norway. We love hearing from our fans. Send us your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com. And do us a favor, review the show on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Until next time, hold fast.
Liquor and the horse, I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said, last time you was paid up with me, you took up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Once more, once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me, son. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any horse, but get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.